one of three. We are open. This is the Welcome to Unicon show.
DJ Steve in the house.
Like to introduce to the stage at this time our host, Megan Clef Fisher. From, that's right, The Whisper from The Walking Dead. Woo! Joining her on stage, a man who might joke around sometimes, but he's no joker. Give it up, Aaron Phillips, the voice of Las Vegas.
Yeah!
Woo! Batman, gotta love Batman. Walking Dead, gotta love that. How are you? Long time no see.
I know, right?
How's everybody out there? Make some noise.
Woo! Yeah!
All right. Who's ready for some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fun?
Yes.
Fun, ready? Let's hear it.
Yes.
All right.
Cowabunga!
It is with great pleasure that we begin welcoming to the stage. Here's the voice of Donatello and Bebop. Please welcome to the stage, Barry Gordon.
Turtle power.
Where's everyone else?
They're coming. They're coming,
Guys,
All right, up next we have April O'Neil herself,
Hey.
Renee Jacobs.
Yeah!
Next coming to the stage, he was the voice of Raphael and Donatello. Please welcome Rob Paulson.
He's a radical rat.
Up next we have Leo and Rocksteady himself, Cam Clark.
And making his way to the stage, he was the voice of Michelangelo, as well as some other characters during the series. Please welcome Townsend Coleman. Let's welcome him to the stage. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah! Cowabunga!
Yeah. We just need some pizza
Yes.
and some.
No anchovies.
Did you guys have a look at that bitchin' turtle van?
Yeah!
That's really cool. That.
Woo!
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's way cool.
Nice to see you.
Well, welcome. You know, there's a water park here in Henderson area called Cowabunga Bay.
Oh, is that right?
Did you guys have
Yes.
anything to do with that? I'm just curious.
We should get some.
Maybe.
We should make some back end dough on that.
So-
Yeah.
Can we just appreciate their style? I mean,
Right.
you can't
Yes.
get dressed any
Yeah.
more fabulous than this up here.
What, this is fashion up here, ladies and gentlemen.
Living color, right?
Yeah.
This is style right here. Shameless plug. If you like good Halloween T-shirts, this is a designer I met doing the con circuit. They're called 7th Ink, and look
Yes.
at this. Is
Yeah.
this just off the hook?
Sexy, baby!
Gnarly.
Yeah! So anyway, if you're out there, 7th Ink, this is for you.
Right?
I'll take my cut later.
Did they run out of 6th ink? Is that why they went to the 7th?
Yeah, they were out
Okay.
of 6.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So I'm going to just ask one quick question and to see if we get the ball rolling. You know, most actors and performers are known visually on camera, like Megan. She's been in movies and TV. You guys are primarily known for your voices. You guys are like are in your own witness protection program because nobody knows who you are by face. So talk about how that's different for you. I mean, you guys obviously very successful in what you do. Some of you have been in movies as well, but for the most part, voice work. What's that like being the hidden talent by voice only? Yes, Mr.
Pick me,
Cotter
pick me.
recommends you.
Okay, singers will talk about this as well. You don't know, you might know on paper what your success is, but it's not until you're on the road. You know, you do a concert, you've done a record and it's a hit, but you don't really know till you're out there. Well, likewise was the same for us, and these guys have heard this story 5 million times. But when I first realized that we were a hit, I was at the movies. Y'all remember this story? And I see this little kid in line. He's got a Ninja Turtle hat and sweatshirt, carrying the doll. You know, the whole thing. And he's got an ice.
Wait, you call it a doll?
It wasn't an action figure. It was plush. No, it was plush. It was plush.
I think they call them plushies now.
Plushies.
An action plushie.
Action plushie. And we didn't have a kung fu grip.
There's a difference.
Anyway, so I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to go up to this little kid and I'm going to blow his mind, give him a thrill, and tell him who I am. So he's there, you know, he's like with his ice cream, right? And I'm like, he's going to love this. So I go up and I go, hey, so you're a Ninja Turtle fan, huh? Yeah. Well, guess what? I'm Leonardo. Oh, yeah? And I'm Donatello.
True.
And I was like, okay, well, I guess this image, Mom, weird man. So I went, okay, well, we'll stay as just voices.
Right.
So now you can imagine 35 years later, I can't walk up to anybody and tell them I'm done.
It is to be sure a little bit different. However, we've been around long enough, and Turtles is, you know, what it's become now.
Yes.
And the upshot of the entire experience, it's already happened here. When people find out who you are, all it does is generate joy. It's the most wonderful thing, and I would argue that it is we who get a bigger kick out of it. That
Indeed.
It just makes them all
Absolutely.
so happy. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, it's great.
I know if Barry's going to say something. I keep
Go ahead,
seeing the
Barry.
light going up. I was.
He's ready.
No, I'm seeing if it works. It does.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of had, I guess, maybe as much on camera as off camera. So for me, switching to off camera was fascinating. And what I find interesting is that I was able to do it almost all with my own voice. I had to do almost nothing to my voice, and I did a lot of shows. But these guys, like Rob and Tony and Maurice LaMarche, and Neil Ross and Cam. Well, yeah, and Cam, and the guys that and Billy West, and there's such amazing.
And D. Bradley Baker.
That's right, D. Bradley Baker's here this week.
But they're such amazing voice magicians, and I never was, but I
Voice
was very lucky.
magicians. I've never heard that.
Yes, you're a voice magician. You just create, and it's amazing stuff. So.
And it sure beats the hell out of working for a living.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Right, Shredder?
Yeah.
Shredder's back there. I see you, pal.
Oh yeah.
Good job. A walking Cuisinart.
Yeah, the lights are a little bright, so if we're shading our eyes, it's not because for any reason other than we're being blinded right now, but that's okay. Got Miss Megan, you got something for him?
Well, when you say bringing people joy, I mean, this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was my childhood, and I know a lot of people's childhood. So you guys doing the voices, like, even outside of on the show, you're just like, oh my God, like, essentially in the 80s, a lot of the cartoons raised us. We were latchkey kids, mom and dad were both working.
Right?
Every day you get off school and know that show was going to be there for you to watch. And I actually have
Sweet.
a
Thank you.
confession to make. When I was at my grandma's house, I was not allowed to watch Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles. So I had to sneak watch it.
Oh my. You're a clandestine
And then
turtle.
change the channel real fast.
Where y'all from?
Well, I'm from Kentucky,
Yeah.
but I live here now.
All right.
Love it. I love that accent.
It's pretty fascinating, isn't it, Meg, that how those shows really connect with you, and especially as you get older. when you hear something, it's whether it's a smell of a favorite dish that your mother used to cook or your grandmother used to cook, or a favorite song, or a cartoon character. Those are the things that we learn more and more as we get a chance to do these wonderful conventions, is how deeply people connect with these characters. And it is way bigger than an action figure. It really is. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
We had that.
What's interesting too is
Or a plush action figure.
yes, a
Doll.
Or a doll, or
plushie.
stupid doll.
It's a plushie.
Well, when we get to talk to folks at these cons and find out just what Ninja Turtles meant to them when they were kids, and how they latch on in many cases to one of the turtles as being their favorite for various reasons. I met a young gentleman a couple of years ago at a convention, and he said to me, you know, Mr. Coleman, one of the things that I loved about Ninja Turtles was that, and he was a very erudite, smart man, and he said, Donatello taught me that it was okay to be smart.
Yeah.
And it just never occurred to me that there were those kinds of character traits in each of our characters that folks, the kids who are now adults, would have latched on to, you know.
And in April.
And in April as well.
April O'Neil,
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, Renee is sitting here amongst the fellas. So Renee, how did you deal with being amongst the fellas every day in your character? I got to imagine, you know, you had to fit right in, right?
Well, April was kind of the straight person to all of the comedy. Her big line was...
Pardon the expression.
Straight.
Oh my God.
Send your comments and emails to...
Crickets. So it was, for me, it was amazing to be in the studio with all of these guys, the most creative, loving, wonderful, kind. I was in a different studio with other people. No. But no, really, truly amazing. So to be in the studio with these guys, my face would hurt when I left from recording, and it would take another week before I could get back in the studio so my face would return to normal. But it was great, and you know what we were talking about earlier about how all these characters have influenced fans. Well, first of all, I know from all of us, we thank you for your love and your kindness and your warmth and your friendship. We all have most of you as Facebook friends, and we love you and appreciate you very, very much. I've heard from fans, especially women, that April got them through some pretty dark times. They may have been abused, they may have had older brothers or brothers they couldn't really relate to, but because she could play April, she was able to participate with her brothers. Or the character influenced.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, the character influenced that woman, that she could be in the military or become a doctor or a reporter or a writer, that she didn't have to think of herself in pigeonholed in a certain place in the world. And so April for me is, I mean, I'm so impressed and admire these women who went above and were able to overcome difficulties because of her.
Pretty cool.
Well, I know in the 80s too, like me being a sibling with a brother and a sister, when there were shows, if there wasn't a female character, in the 80s it was very much like, oh, that's a boy show, or oh, that's a girl show.
Absolutely right.
So like when my brother had the turtle action figures that was supposed to be boy toys, and I'd be like, no, I'm gonna play with them anyway, you know? But the girl characters allowed for girls to be able to play with them too, and this was more of like a parental thing and a generational thing than it was the actual shows themselves.
When you guys started this project, so many years ago, did you ever think it would have the lasting legacy that it has today? Because realistically, this is a show that's all about legacy. I mean,
You're right.
Never.
No, none of us had any idea it was going to turn into what it turned into. Robbie and I were working on a show called Fraggle Rock at the time in 1986, and the voice director on this show came into one of our recording sessions one day and said, "You guys aren't going to believe what I'm going to be casting and directing next." And he pulls out a copy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic book from his briefcase and shows it to us, and And I know my reaction was like, wow, okay, good luck with that. You know? But he brought us in to audition for it. We all auditioned for all 4 turtles, and we're lucky enough to get cast. I mean, for us, there isn't one of us that doesn't feel like we've hit the lottery with this show. You know, in more ways than one. Not just because of the success that the show had during the 10 years that we did it, but you know, and subsequently now with all the various iterations of the show. But really hitting the lottery because of the cast that we had. You know, we're closer now than we were when we were working together.
And that's thanks to you guys.
That's thanks to you. Yeah, the con circuit.
Us for talking to your local. I know this is a first-year con, but folks who ride in from Kentucky or Pennsylvania or wherever, saying we want these guys with us.
And the fact that Rob and Steve, with this wonderful event, would include us and make a point to have us come here and be part of this.
Yes.
Speaks really to the power of this, as you said, the legacy, the power of this franchise. It's pretty remarkable when you're talking about something that's 35 years old, from comic book to, if there's 6 television iteration, I don't know, 7 or 8 films. Last I heard it was $6 billion in merchandising, but countless hours of joy. And
do you know how long it takes for you to make that kind of money?
It takes me 4 years to make $6 billion. I mean, you guys got to eat. Pizza and Porsches are not inexpensive.
Right.
But seriously, it's a remarkable thing. And look at all these lovely people here to just hear about the experience and share. Oh, I'll tell you one that really brings it home. A few years ago, we did there was a 2012-2016 iteration of Turtles on Nickelodeon. And there was we did one called Transdimensional Turtles, in which the old Turtles met. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. And it was really excellent, but we premiered it at New York Comic Con.
Yes.
And there were probably 3,000 people in the audience. It was a big deal. And you know, after that episode played and the lights came up, there were a whole lot of 30-somethings going.
Yeah.
And it was the most precious thing to see, because it was about nothing but just pure joy and nostalgia, and this incredible moment where you see this 35-year gap of your life just go shoom. And it was powerful.
Yeah.
Really something to watch.
And one of the really fun moments from that episode was that Rob was the voice of Raphael on the original show, of course, but also the voice of Donatello on the 2012 series. So he got to meet himself and talk to himself.
Which I do all the time anyway, without medication.
I'd like to add something to your question.
Sure.
We all were fortunate enough to be a part of this animation world in a real heyday. That was also before the internet blew up, and we were almost like ensemble players because there was only these many of us involved. And if I didn't see Barry on this job, I'd see him on the next one. And we all auditioned for all the shows, some of them lovely, some of them meh, but you never knew which was going to be a hit. Great things that you think are going to soar, don't. I mean, well, just like in movies and such. But we were, like I said, like repertory actors, because there was only like 30 of us, or something like that. That
was a small community back then.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's, with the internet, people audition from all over the country, from their home studios.
Yeah, I know I do, but I never get selected.
But going back to your question, Aaron, when I first heard about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, my agent called me up. He said, I've got an audition for you, and he said, and you're going to go to such and such a place, and and I said, great. And he said, I said, what's the project? And he said, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the 2 words that I responded with were, yeah, right. So no, I never thought it was going to be a success at all. I didn't even think it existed. I thought he was just kidding around. And but I will say that once I got to the audition, got the copy that they were having us read, and we all read for all 4 turtles. So I got to see a little of Michelangelo's copy and Leonardo's and Raphael's and Donatello's, and saw the characters, and that they had storyboarded. There was something in me once I finished that process that said, there's something really kind of cool here.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't say, yeah, I think it's going to be the greatest thing of all time, but I did say, that's something I want to be involved in. That's something that's exciting. And even though we read for all 4 parts, I really wanted to be Donatello. I left saying, gosh, I hope I get Donatello. That's the one I want. And I was fortunate it worked.
I think we all felt that there was something pretty special about it in that first season.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The one thing, going back to what Cam was saying about being part of this ensemble, nowadays most of the recording is done on an individual basis. So you go in, or you're at your home and you record, and you don't get to see the other actors. And the idea that we were all in the studio together and developing those characters. So even though they were written, they were interesting when we first auditioned, the personality of the turtles really evolved because of these 4 men. They took them off the page. They gave them the quirkiness and the fun, and many of the lines were ad-libbed. They weren't written. And I don't think without this cast, Turtles may not have done what it's done.
Great, well said.
I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
Let's go with that, shall we, everybody?
That's what I was going to ask, because I know nowadays, and especially with everything over the last 2 years, is that I know voice actors I know or have met are doing it alone. But how much of it, and you just pretty much answered me, was you guys playing off of each other?
It's acting is acting. Well, you're a traditional actor, to be right. It's always better being surrounded by people who are better than you. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're a golfer.
Well, thank you.
It's true. And you know what? I was Donatello too. So there.
Oh. And as a matter of fact, of course, this was something that they all know that I talk about this. But as a matter of fact, the kind of producer we had, when we could not all be in the studio together, we were replaced for that episode.
That was awful.
So that's really bizarre, because we all had, there were times when there were conflicts, and we would say, we can just go in and do our lines. It's called wild, without anyone else around, and we can just do our lines wild and wherever we are. And the producer said, no, you can't, and he replaced us. So on the DVDs, you will on occasion hear different people voicing the characters because of that strange quirk the producer had.
It really does interrupt the juice. It really interrupts the flow, because it does become your work family. And then when you realize how important these things are to other people, it's not the same. It's not an aspersion like the other actors. They got the gig,
but also
it's
because
way better together.
Because to get back to that, the talent pool was small, and this goes for when we would all work in radio as well. We knew each other. We knew who's gonna jump in. We just knew, how many times did we do couple auditions in the booth with another person that we knew like the back of our hand, and I knew how this girl was going to respond to my ad lib, almost like you were a comedy troupe. Yet we knew each other's patterns, rhythms already, so we came in with a musicality of each other's patterns.
Well, you have to have chemistry.
Yeah, it's already, so we're already got a head start, and that goes for the radio commercials, for the animation. We knew each other from there was no hi,
I'm Cam Clark, and you are not. So that adds to the fun, the creative part of it.
I think the real question is, how much pizza did you eat when y'all were on?
During the session.